righty, welcome everyone. This is Jim Collins with another episode of Journey to the Pit. We got started on time this evening, which is great. We got another special guest coming in tonight. We're going to do a switch up. It's going to be a little different than what we have been doing, since the beginning of Journey to the Pit. We're going to switch it up a little bit, and bring a guest on that I think will kind of give us some insight. I think this next guest is going to be a very special guest. Is a young cocker coming in. We're going to hear his story. Listening to him is very encouraging and very informative. And we're not going to be talking about bloodlines and how to worm and setups and all that kind of stuff. That's not what this episode is about tonight. Our episode tonight is going to be about listening to a young cocker newly coming into the game, what his life experience has been like since he's been in the game, what got him into chickens, what type of feedback and help he's getting, what is his perspective on the gamefowl community. And I think is extremely important because, again, guys like himself in that age group, that they're the next generation, they're our future. So it's extremely important that we listen to them, find out what they need, how they feeling, to see what we can do to help create the next generation. That's what I have always been talking about with 362. Is all about taking part and taking an active role in creating the next generation that we want to see. So having our next special guest on this evening will kind of give us some insight, give us some insights, also some encouragement, some inspiration, knowing that these are the kind of young men and young women that's coming into our sport. And then that we need to do everything that we possibly can to make sure that we're setting them up for success. So I'm going to bring our special guest in. He's a young guy. We putting a little twist on the show, but I think his interview will be the first of many. We will be interviewing more younger cockers because we need to always keep our ear to the ground. We need to always have some type of connection to the next generation. Is extremely important. So he's going to be the first of the younger generation that's going to be coming on Journey to the Pit. And as you all know, we don't talk about anything illegal here. We're just going to bring on our next special guest to talk about his history, his perspective, and I think that all y'all guys will enjoy it. Luis Rodriguez is from Stockbridge, Georgia. Send me a PM, man. But listen, let me let me go on. Let me bring our next special guest in tonight. It's a great young guy, man. He's coming in 3, 2, 1. Here you go. Dakota, how you doing this evening, brother?
I'm good. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great, man. Is the audio and visual good on your end?
Yes, sir. Good as always.
Okay, good. So what I'm going to do is, obviously, we always say the disclaimer prior to starting the show. So Mr. Dakota is on the screen right now. So all the information discussed in this interview is for historical, educational, and entertainment purposes only. None of this information is intended for any illegal purposes, and all opinions are respected of the individual. So, Dakota Buffington, Legacy Smith Game Farms, man, welcome to the show. It's a pleasure to have you on tonight, and I'm pretty sure you have watched, many episodes of the show. So, how we start out. Let's start out, man, by you telling us a little bit about yourself for the people who do not know you. We can kind of get an understanding of who we talking to, all right?
All right. Well, obviously, a lot of you don't know me. My name's Dakota Buffington. I'm 20 years old. I'm from a little town in northeast Georgia called Murrayville, Georgia, and I own Smith's Legacy Game Farm. It's been a wild ride to get here. I believe that.
It's been a wild ride, huh?
Yes, sir.
Well, tell me this. Let's start it off like this. How did you come up with the name?
Well, believe it or not, the name it's family. My great grandpa's name was my great grandpa's name was Henry Smith, and he raised cows, chickens, game chickens. He raised everything, and my farm is about 100 yards past where his weaning pastures were for calves. So my farm, you can look at my farm and you can look where my brood pens are and look up the hill, and my great grandpa's house was up on the hill. So that's where it came from, with Smith's Legacy Farms. So I mean, it's heritage.
Man. So it has some. Yep, it has some heritage. It has some meaning. I mean, that's extremely important, man. And again, it's just you're carrying it on. You're carrying it on, like you said. Your grandpa had all kinds. He was basically a farmer. because he
Yes,
had
sir.
everything. He had all the farm animals and all that. So that's a beautiful thing, man. So you got it started off right with the right concept that you wanted to carry on something.
Yes,
So
sir.
tell me this: how long have you been in game fowl?
um, believe it or not, January 30th, this past January 30th it marked a year that I had been raising my own chickens. So I mean,
Okay,
I'm
okay.
still a little green behind the ears, but
Oh no, you're gonna be green behind the ears. If we had this conversation 10 years down the road, you'd
that's
still
right.
be green behind it.
That's right.
Well, so let's talk about now, what got you into game fowl?
I mean, that's a funny story. I mean, I love to tell it. I've been around chickens my entire life, like I said, but
Mhm.
I mean, I was on a job site one day working for my grandfather, and my grandfather and one of his workers were talking about kelsos and hatches, and I was like, "What in the world is that?" And
Right.
his worker pulled up some pictures and was like, this is a kelso, this is a hatch, and I was like, "I want one of those," and he was like,
Right.
"Okay," and I didn't think nothing of it. I was like, maybe he thought I was kidding. Well, a week later, I get a phone call. It's like, "Hey, there's a rooster in my yard. You want to come get him?" I was like, "Oh, yeah." So I mean, that's literally that's
Wow.
how it started. Was one Kelso rooster, and that's what started it.
One Kelso rooster. So tell me this: the person you got him from was the same one that was showing you the pictures?
Yes, sir. It was.
Wow. So you got your start a little over a year ago.
Yes, sir.
And from those pictures, you basically fell in love.
Yes, sir. It was well, for lack of better terms, it was love at first sight. Yes, sir.
Yeah, that's a beautiful thing, man. I tell you, man, these animals are majestic animals. And a lot of times I just think it's almost something biblical because
Yeah.
roosters, game fowl are talked about in every religion on this planet. In many different forms. But it seems like every cocker, every game fowl breeder, when they first see it, they can't really even explain it.
That's
When
right.
I first seen it, I haven't even been in game fowl that long. I've been in game fowl probably a little over 8 years, and I had seen game fowl when I was younger, probably in my twenties, down in Plant City, Florida. I had a friend of mine that had some back then, but I knew nothing about it. I was visiting him. He just happened to have him out there on tie cords.
Yeah.
But when I moved to Puerto Rico and had my first opportunity to see game fowl, I just was like, I couldn't, I like had to have one. Even
Yeah.
if I didn't even know what to do with it, I
Yeah.
needed to have one so I can get up and look at it, play with it, touch it, feel it. It was
Yeah.
the animal just unbelievable,
Yes.
unbelievable,
Yes.
unbelievable. So you got your first chicken, right?
Yes, sir.
This is where it all starts. I would say it's all downhill from there, but it's not. It's actually all uphill because
Yes,
it's a
sir.
journey, man. It's a
Yeah.
lot of work, and I always say, once you get that first chicken, it's like it's all downhill, but it's actually not. It's actually all uphill because it ain't
Yes,
easy.
sir.
You can roll downhill. You got to
That's
put in
right.
a lot of work to go uphill.
Yeah,
So
that's right.
that's where your journey started at, man. One of the guys that worked for your grandfather showed you some kelsos and hatches with a picture, and a
Yes,
week
sir.
later he told you he had one, and you went over there and got. So, what did your first game foul look like, man?
I mean, he's a pearl-legged, straight-comb Kelso. I've still got him. He's 6 years old. He's a brood cock. He's feisty. I
Right,
love him. I mean,
right, right.
it's funny. He sits on the corner of my yard, and I walk out, every morning to go water chickens, and every morning I'm like, man, it's kind of wild. That one Kelso rooster, sparked a passion, basically, sparked,
Yep,
something I foresee myself doing for a long time. It's a
right.
wild thought process every morning when I walk out there and see him.
When you walk out there, it's a beautiful thing, isn't it?
Absolutely, yes, sir.
And and I know many people watching, and many people watching from the outside of and I call it a lifestyle. It's not even a sport, it's a lifestyle
Yes,
because we
sir.
make so much sacrifice. It takes so much dedication and commitment. It's a lifestyle. We actually cater our lifestyle around these animals. So that's why I
Yes,
call
sir.
it a lifestyle. But a lot of people outside of our lifestyle could never really understand it because we
That's
could never really explain
that's right.
what these animals do for us.
That's right.
Um, and it's amazing that you got into it, and one of the first things that you wanted to do was carry on your grandfather's farm name to make sure that's remembered. You know what I'm
Yes,
saying?
sir.
I
Yes,
mean,
sir.
that shows you how much these animals touch our lives. And you being 20 years old, you already started on that path. Nobody told you to do it or anything like that. You just felt as though that's what needed to be done.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. I mean, it was really, it was really a funny thing because I brought him home, and I had a buddy give me a couple game hens. That was a couple little yard hatch grays is all they were. And I was like, I really enjoy doing this. And my mama looked at me. She was like, buddy, she was like, do you really want to do this? I was like, yeah, mama, I
Uh-huh.
do. And she goes,
Uh-huh.
well, first and foremost, she said, if it was any decision we've made on this farm, any major decision,
Right.
any minor decision, she said, let's pray on this. And I said, yes, ma'am, all right.
That's right.
So we
That's right.
prayed on it, and we turned it over to the Lord, and that's what we did. And
Hmm. Hmm.
it's blossomed, to say the least.
It blossomed, and I'm not going to fast forward. Well, I'm not going to fast forward. I was going to fast forward to ask you a question, but we're going to keep on walking this thing through. So you got your first chicken, right?
Yes,
So you
sir.
got your first chicken. You excited about it. How did you have any setup, any pins, TPs, barrels? Did you have anything for them, or how did you bring them home?
I mean, honestly, we had 4 laying hens and like a 10 by 10 pen that me and my dad threw together because we love fresh eggs. There's nothing
Right.
like a fresh egg in the morning.
That's
And
right.
I was like, well, so I just kind of threw them in the laying chicken pen. And I was like, I guess I should probably build another pen. And so, um, me and my dad, I scraped together some money, and
Right.
my dad's a wonderful carpenter. Always has been. He's
Okay.
great
Uh-huh.
with his hands,
Uh-huh.
and he helped me build together my first stall, and I set him in there, and I was like, man, he'd look real good with some hens, and it got my heart beating a little bit, it got me excited.
Right.
I knew, I was like, man, I was
Right.
like, this is gonna be something.
It's gonna be so I can see the joy in your face right now, man. It is, man. I'm telling, it's just such an inspiration, man, because it gives us, the generation of today gives us, that smile, that excitement, that enthusiasm. It gives us a lot of inspiration that, hey, we do have people coming into this sport that has the passion for the sport, the passion for the birds, and that plan to carry it on. So it's just so awesome, man, to hear. So you said when you built your first pen, you put them out there. You built your first pen, you put them out there, and what was your feeling, man, when you stood out there, man, and just looked at that gamecock sitting inside that pen?
Man, I looked at him and I was like, oh. And he hopped, he kind of scratched around a little bit. I kind of went about and just doing my yard work, and I got around and I was weed eating around the chicken pens, and I got around the back. And he jumped up on the roost, and he looked at me and he crowed this big old long crow. I mean, he's got a distinctive crow. Whenever somebody hears him, they're like, man, which one is that? Oh, that's that Kelso. I know who he is, and I mean, it really just put a smile on my face. I mean, I couldn't tell you why. I
Right,
don't know why, but he hopped up
right,
on that perch and he looked
right,
at me and he gave out that big old loud crow, and I was like, man, that's something I
right.
can wake up to every morning.
I know that's right, man. I know that's right. So tell me this, Dakota. So, that's basically the first game. You've been around chickens and stuff like that all your life, but that's
Yes,
really
sir.
the first gamecock that you had at the yard, huh?
Yes, sir. That's the first game chicken I'd ever owned. That's the first. That's been. I went from asking about a game chicken to looking at a 5-year-old Kelso cock within about a week and a half, and I was like, oh man, this is gonna be
Right.
fun. This is gonna be something. It kind of got my heart
That's
thumping and
exactly right.
made me excited.
Right. That's amazing. That is amazing. So tell me this, Dakota. So you got your first one. Um, so you decided you and your father worked together. Y'all built him a pen. Y'all got him in the pen now. What did you do next? Did you get him some hens, or what did you do next?
I mean, in all honesty, I mean, as bad as it sounds, I've always had a thing, for chickens in general, for livestock. And I was like, Dad,
Mhm.
I was like, we got to build another pen. I mean, I was just genuinely excited to finally have my hands on something, that I was like, man, like I could really invest in, like I give
Right.
that rooster my all, he's gonna give me his all, if,
Right.
whether
That's right.
in a brood pen, when I set him out
Right.
to be judged, he brings home that blue
Right.
ribbon,
That's
and
right.
automatically in my head, I was like, man, I gotta get him some hens. I started doing my research. I started googling,
Right.
out and out Kelso history.
Yeah.
I started looking up that. I fell in love, with Johnny Jumper Game Farm, with his out and out
Right.
Kelsos. And
Right.
it was just, for lack of better terms, it was a downward spiral of just love that I had for these chickens, and I was like, this is we gonna be here a while.
Wow. 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 So that was your first thing. So you reached out there. Where did you get your first you did get your first hen or first
Yes, sir.
couple hens?
Yes, sir. I mean, I ended up putting it out there in the Facebook group, and I was like, "Does anybody have any game hens available?" And a guy, about an hour from here, he reached out to me. He said, "Yeah, buddy." He said, "I do." I traded him a little BB gun. He ended up giving me 3 hens. He gave me, give me a black gray, a hatch gray, and another hatch gray. I threw them all in the pen. I was like, "Let's do something with them." I was just excited.
Right.
Shortly after that is when I built my next stall, and then then I was like, I might need another rooster to go in this stall.
Right.
My gears started turning a little bit.
Yeah. Uh-huh. 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 So you go from one gamecock to no hens to one gamecock, 3 hens from one stall. Now you're about to build 2 stalls, and then there's a journey.
Yes,
So
sir.
so obviously, you've been around chickens and stuff like that from a livestock standpoint,
Yes, sir.
all your life. Now you get into the gamecocks. You acquire your first gamecock. You got your first hens. You build your first pen. You
Mhm.
know, how did you even determine, like, who did you start reaching out to? Like, did you already know how to feed them, or did you just feed them like the regular laying chickens that you had?
I mean, I'm not gonna lie to you. I've always fed my chickens. I fed them laying pellets of scratch grain. And that's what I
Hmm.
fed my gamecock to start out with, because I had no clue. I had no clue that
That's
there
right.
was, that was special feed that I could feed them, that was, 15, 16, 22% protein. I had no idea
Right.
that, I could
That's
feed
right.
him a special mix or anything.
That's
So I
right.
was just, slinging a little scratch, a couple laying pellets. I was slinging them and them hens in there some. I wasn't thinking
Right.
nothing of it. I was just like,
Right.
he's eating, he's all
Right.
right.
Hmm. Hmm.
And then obviously, I actually had a buddy that worked at a feed store, and God bless Darren Brown, because if it wasn't for him, I would have had no clue, that
Right.
I could actually feed him. Like I feed Showtime maintenance, and
Right.
he was like, man, he's like, there's Gamecock feed, and I was like, huh? And he was like, man, they have feed specially formulated for gamecocks. He's like, we sell it at the feed store. He was like, you come by one day, and he said, I'll get the owner to talk to you about it. And I was like, all right. And so,
Right.
I mean, that's how I figured it out, basically.
Wow. And again, if Dakota, I think, like I say, this type of stuff is important, man, because you kind of walking us through it. And I know a lot of people watching right now is just reminiscing. They
Yeah.
probably reminiscing when they first got their first gamecock, what they did, how they didn't know anything. And that's one of the reasons, like I said, I brought you on tonight. So it can kind of, revive a lot of old memories and put some bullet points or some points of, a lot of things that should be important to us and how we can make a positive impact on the next generation. Because again, we got a guy, 20 years old, got his first Kelso, didn't even really know they had special kind of gamecock feed, was just gonna feed
Yeah.
him like a laying hen. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? And
Yeah.
that's where your journey start. But
Yeah.
at that time, you're so vulnerable because at that time, with you not really knowing anything, it's extremely important that the people that you came in contact with in a game foul community was encouraging, was supportive. They wasn't telling you ain't got no just use your common sense.
That's right.
Because at that time you didn't have any common sense when it came to game foul, did you?
That's right. No, I mean, I had no clue. I knew, you fed the chicken, you watered him,
Right.
she laid eggs. That's all I
Right.
knew. And you had a rooster to fertilize the eggs. That's all I knew. I didn't know
Right.
you could feed him, special feed to give him grit in his diet. I had no clue.
That's right. That's exactly right. You have no clue. So as you go and you get up to the feed store now, you go ahead and get you some different feed. You
Yes,
start
sir.
feeding them some different feed. So,
Hmm.
give us a little bit how your journey, how you start really getting into. I guess obviously once you learn you can find different feed, you're probably scratching your head like, well, how much other stuff I need to know since I have these things.
Yeah. I mean, definitely, I was scratching my head, and I feed, like I said, I feed Showtime, and
Mhm.
I've been feeding that, basically since I figured it out. I could feed him, Gamecock feed, and
Right.
well, I fed that, and this guy, you talk about game chickens on Facebook. Facebook's a big world, so somebody's gonna comment
Mhm.
and be like, "Hey, man, you could do this, this, and this," and I was like,
Right.
okay."
Right, right,
So like,
right, right, right.
like I said, I built my second stall. I just had a hen in there, and and then my mama calls it the plague. That's or I call it the plague. Mama just kind of goes along with it. I love gray chickens. I always have. I think they're beautiful. I love the way they stand. I love the way they look.
Mhm,
I love their temperament. Um, so I put it on Facebook one day, and I was like, "Hey, I'm looking for a great game chicken," and they were like, "Well, what line you want? A frost? You want a frost? You want a log grade? You want a, you want one cross with hats?" I was like,
right.
wait a minute, wait a minute. I was like, I just want a great chicken. So I went to a buddy's backyard. I bought a $50. He was bull stag. He was 18 months old. I bought a $50 chicken, and I slung him in that pen. And that's where he stayed for a couple of days. And
Right,
I it's bad, man. I've got a thing for Kelsos and Grays. That's what I do. And
right.
I had a buddy come to the house one day, and he was like, "Hey, man," he's like, "I didn't know you raised no game chickens." I was like, "Well, I don't raise nothing." I was like, "I just kind of got them." And he come back. He said, "Man," he's like, "I'll be right back." And he come back, and he had a little dog carrier, one of them little cat carriers, and he reached in there and he pulled out this gorgeous Kelso cock that I still got him. And he said, "I want that gray chicken right there." And I was like, "I like that gray chicken right there." And
Right.
he said, "Buddy," he said, "I'll give you this rooster and $25." And I was like, "Sold." And I fell in love. And he was a pecan yellow-legged Kelso, come from a local farm here, about 20
Right,
minutes inside town.
right.
Um, he's an old bloodline. If I want to know more about him, I can always call the guy and be like, "Hey man, what's in this chicken? He's marked, outside left or whatever." He would
Right,
tell me, but
right,
I know he's good blood and I love his temperament. He's brought home a blue
right,
ribbon, from the GGBA
right.
shows. He's
That's
he's a
good.
great chicken. I loved him, and
Right, right.
that's all I had for a little bit was Kelsos, because when word travels fast when you live in a small town. I live in a really small town, and it kind of everybody that goes to high school together is always it's always how's your mama and them.
Right.
And word got around, and my buddy was like, "Hey man," I got a bumfoot Kelso I'll sell you. And, he was a Kelso. His foot was messed up, and he kind of walked on it like a fist. And
Right.
he was like, "I got a lacy roundhead hen," and I was like, "What the heck is a roundhead?" And I
Right.
was like, "What in the world
Right.
is that?" And he was like, "Man," he was like, "if you breed them two," he was like, "they'll come out real pretty." And I was like, "Sounds good to me." And,
Uh-huh.
I didn't have no other pens, so I just slung them back in the laying chicken pen. I kind of rigged one of those big like extra large dog carriers. I just kind of rigged it a
Right.
little bit and put it together. And that's really when Mama was like, "Buddy," she was like, "You really like these chickens, don't you?" I said, "Yes, ma'am." She goes, "I think you want to do something with them, don't you?" I said, "Yes, ma'am, I do." And, that's I love my mama to death.
Right.
If it wasn't for her backyard, I wouldn't have my farm.
Right.
And that's I'm not gonna lie to you, it kind of went stagnant for a little bit. I had
It
I had
did.
three cocks and about six hens. Now, that's what I had. I got there, sling them some feed, pet on them, love
Right.
on them, put them back in the pen.
Right.
I didn't have no tie cords, didn't have no barrels, no TPs, no nothing like that. And
Right.
I'd go out there, pet on him, love on him, and just put him back in
Mhm.
the pen. That's what I did for a couple months at least.
Right. So you got your. So tell me this. When you say it got stagnated, was it because of your schedule, or because you kind of got stuck, or was it because you was out there looking for more information, or that's all you
I
can
mean,
handle at that time?
it was really a combination of both, because at the time I was a full time college student, and
Okay.
I was getting a degree in automotive technology, and working on
Right.
cars. It kind of everything between game chickens and cars. Everything was kind of going together. I was like, "Well, wait a minute, I might need to slow down on one of these." I can't slow down on my education, so
Right.
I kind
Right.
of slowed down
Right.
on chickens. I didn't like that too much. I was always out there, messing with them, petting with them, whatever, going to the pen, snapping at them, getting them strut at me. I was
Right.
always handling them. And with school, it was a schedule with school. Even with three cocks and seven hens, I still had to get up every morning and feed. I had classes at 8 o'clock. You know,
Hmm.
classes, 45 minutes away. That's seven
Right.
fifteen right there. I got to leave the house at 7:15. So I've got to
Right.
get up about 6, go out there, water chickens. And so sometimes,
Right.
some semesters, I had class until 6, 7 at night. So I'd have to feed in the mornings because, I'd get home and it'd be
Right.
dark. So I'd have to feed in the mornings,
Right.
feed and water in the mornings. I'd have to text my dad or my mom and be like, hey, can you go run check water for me? And,
Right.
that's that's another thing. My mom and my daddy have been 100% supporters. They haven't. They kind of were like buddies. They were like, if you want to do this, they're like, you're gonna do it. You're gonna do it. We'll provide the yard.
Right.
If you really need help one month, paying that feed bill or something, and we see that you're trying, we'll help you. But
Right.
she said, basically, it was if you stay off your butt, and you stay in this farm like you want to,
Right.
and like you wanna,
Right.
like you say you want to. They said we'll support it. And I
Mhm.
mean that's 100%. They've always backed my dreams. They've always helped me do whatever I wanted to do. So I mean
And
I'm
that's
I'm thankful for
extremely
that too.
important.
Absolutely.
Yes, yes, that's extremely extremely important. So it shows too. You had a full time student. Sometimes we get home 7, 8 o'clock at night. So you got into the habit of feeding the birds in the morning, so you wouldn't have to worry about not being able to miss, having to miss feed. So it's a sacrifice. I mean,
Yeah.
even with your crazy schedule, you knew you had to take care of those birds every single day, no matter
Yes,
what
sir.
the weather was, how bad your schedule is, how tired you was. You got up every single day and took care of them chickens before you started your day, huh?
Yes, sir. I mean I had to because I knew, just like my mama said, they're like, buddy, this is your thing. You're gonna do it. And I was like, all right, I got it. I just kind of took it by the reins. I rode that horse off into sunset.
Right, right, right. So tell me this, Dakota. So you getting into it, you don't have a whole bunch of chickens right now. You're a full-time student, and you said you didn't kind of really like the feeling because obviously you got to put your education first.
Yes,
Chickens
sir.
ain't going nowhere.
Yeah,
Chickens ain't going nowhere. They're gonna be there now and they'll be here 10 years from now. So, you did the right thing. You had to kind of, you know, pump the brakes on one and say, well, let me take care of this first because my job eventually allowed me to have some chickens. Without a good job, I ain't gonna be able to have no chickens.
that's right.
You know, so how did you feel, man, when you had to kind of step back from the chickens? Which you knew it was the right decision, but
Yeah.
how did it kind of feel, man, that you couldn't spend that time with them chickens anymore?
I mean, I'm not gonna lie to you. I mean, it kind of ticked me off. I was like, man, I'm, I've never, I'm gonna be your typical male here. I've never been much for school. I used to like it. I was a kid, but high school,
Right,
college, I was like, man, what am
right,
I doing here? And in a way, the chickens were my extracurricular activity, basically. I
right,
mean, because it really drove me crazy because I work for my dad, my mom, both my parents are entrepreneurs, so I work for both of them.
okay,
And
right.
my dad owns an upholstery shop, and it's literally like the house is here, the chicken yard is here, and the shop is here. So
Okay, okay.
so I would have to walk past my chickens every morning, every afternoon. Whenever I got home from school, if I didn't have school that day, I'd have to walk
Mhm.
past my chickens, to go to work. And
Right,
thankful. So thankful for my daddy. I've taken over
right,
part of the shop. It's kind of like my cock house, quote unquote. Like my
right,
feed bins are in there. I'm transitioning everything out, and into the yard, with waterproof barrels,
right,
all that kind of stuff. Um,
right.
but I had to walk over there. I'd be working in the main part of the shop, and I'd look over. I'd be like, man, there's chicken feed over there. Them chickens probably need to be fed. I'd be like, Daddy,
Right,
I got to take a break. I'm gonna water the chickens real quick. It was just
right, right.
it was just like a childlike happiness, basically. Anytime I had the opportunity to mess with them or fool with them, or go out there and see them.
Yep. It's a, it's. I tell you, man, it's an amazing. It's just a joy, man, just hearing you talk about it. Because, like I said, a lot of guys like myself, we're all. A lot of us is just reminiscing when we first got into it. And these stories again, they're your journey. But I really want to highlight it, man, because this is the other side that a lot of people in society do not see. They don't see the fact that this is a young man focused on school. He made the right decision on pumping his brakes on the game fowl so he could focus on his education, was working, got up every morning, took care of his chickens, fed them, water them, and all that, would check on them throughout the day while he was in school to make sure he had water. These are all the sacrifices that you're doing, and you don't have to do it. I
Yeah,
mean, you can, you can say, I'll feed my chickens every other day. And
yeah,
if nobody knows, then nobody knows. Only
that's
you
right.
know. You and the chickens know.
That's
But
right.
you didn't. You decided to commit and dedicate it because of the love that you have for these animals, that even if I'm working all day, if I'm in school all day, I got to spend time with my chickens.
Yeah.
And then the thing is, just the feeling that you said that you had, when you couldn't mess with your chickens and you had to
Yeah.
focus on school, like, God, dog, man, I want to be out in that.
Yeah.
I want to be out in that chicken yard, And I know a lot of people that's like that. I know a lot of people that has actually never did anything other in their life but chickens. They ain't
Yeah.
really, every job they had was just a job just to put a little, to get them through the next hump.
Yeah.
Chickens were just their life. And we don't see that. That is not projected to society. Society is presented a snapshot of who they think we are, and they don't really get a true look of who we truly
Yeah.
are. We're very hardworking. We God fearing. We're dedicated. We make a lot of sacrifice. We're family people.
Yeah.
That is who a game fowl breeder is.
Yeah.
It's not all the other stuff, the drugs and this. That's trash. That's
Yeah.
probably 0.3%, 0.13% of something.
Yeah.
That is not who we are.
Yeah.
And again, and I'm saying that because you're young, and not knowing the game fowl community, I think it's important for you to know, because you will run into some of that stuff as a game fowl breeder as you go along in your journey. But just that's a very, very small portion of who we are. And what you're doing right now is exactly what a game fowl breeder is all about. Dedication, commitment, God-fearing, family-oriented, responsible, sacrifice. That's what we all about. So it's like I said, it's just a pleasure sitting here listening to you, man. How you already get upset a little bit that you can't spend time with your chickens. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because you could be like, oh, it's just a chicken. I ain't got time right now. I need to make this money so I can buy me a car or go do this or play a video game or whatever the case is. Like,
Yeah.
nah, I want to really be in my chicken yard. I know I got to
Yeah.
be in this school, but I really want to be in that chicken yard.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it irked me, for lack of better terms, that I couldn't go out there, I couldn't go out there and pet them kelsos, but I might not have been in the chicken yard, but I was
Right.
on my phone doing, what's a Cardinal Club kelso, what's out and out kelso, trying to figure out, what all these different gray bloods were, I was, it was like a mad chicken brain, that's all that was in my head, was just chickens, and I was like, I got to figure this stuff out, and so I kind of really I dove in with both feet. I mean, I jumped in with both feet. I dove in head first.
Right.
That's what I did.
It was like, I'm going to break my neck. I'm going not into my
Yeah. Absolutely, yeah.
So tell me this, Dakota. So you getting in, like you say, you don't know anything. First game fowl you ever had in your life. You've been around a farm, so you know about poultry and that kind of stuff. But this is a whole different animal. So you have reached out to some local people, used Facebook to get some resources, did your own research and stuff like that. What was your feeling when you started to go out and explore and network within the community, man? Like, what kind of feeling, what kind of feedback, or what was your perception of this culture?
I mean, I'm not gonna lie to you. I mean, it was awesome at first because I could walk in. There's a man down the road. He's 10 minutes down the road. He's bred chickens. Almost 50 years. His name is Mr. Beanie, and he's been nothing but helpful. And he's literally nothing but helpful. My first interaction with this community was positive. It was like you said, it was positive people. They were family oriented. They wanted to help, but as sad as it is to say, I do get looked down on a lot because I'm young. But that's with anything. Whether it be sports, school, anything. But my perception was like it's a family thing. Like as game fowl breeders, as cockers, you are one big family. Majority, whether it's I'm looking for this bloodline or this bloodline, or I'm trying to figure out what kind of feed to feed them. You can pick up that phone and be like, hey man, what am I doing wrong here? And they'll be like, oh buddy, you just doing this, this, and this. If you tweak this, it'll be a little bit different. It'll turn out better for you.
Right. So, so your first interaction is positive. You meeting a bunch of good people, bunch of good game fowl breeders. You got somebody close by the house. You can pick up the phone. Reach out to them when you get stumbled. And I'm pretty sure you had a lot of stumbling because you knew you don't really know what's going on. So tell me this, and I hear this a lot of times, and you probably hear it in a lot of other different things. When you first start reaching out, you know, was some of the stuff that you were asking that people kind of felt like maybe it was probably common sense, but to you, it wasn't common sense because you never had a game chicken in your life?
I mean, absolutely, because like I knew, literally what I knew was you fed the hen laying pellets. She laid an egg. You needed a rooster to fertilize that egg. The hen would set on the eggs for 21 days, and you'd have a chick. That's all I
Right,
knew. I didn't even know it was
right,
21 days up until I started really getting into chickens. And
right,
there was a lot of times simple stuff. I didn't even know how to hold a rooster. I was like just holding him. I just hold his wings down, hold him, hold real awkward. He would squirm and everything. And finally, somebody was like, "Buddy," he was like, just tuck your hand up there under his breast. Just hold him. And,
right,
it was simple stuff like that. That it
right,
seems common sense, but it
right.
wasn't. And
Exactly.
like anytime, fowl care is one of the most simple yet complex things I've ever had to comprehend. And like like pen fights. That's the I mean, it's awful. I hate them. I can't stand them. You bust toes, you
Right,
break beaks, you bust spurs,
right.
you bust
That's right.
heads.
That's right.
I never really, I'd seen a rooster. I'd been like, I like my tie cord. I was obviously not the greatest, so I put him on
Right,
tie cord. He'd get off the tie cord. I'd seen him. Hit the fence, and I'd
right,
freak out. Grab my rooster and be like, oh
right,
no. But
right.
one day, here in Georgia, the weather's crazy, and
Mhm.
I had a pin blowover. It was a fresh 2-year-old at Kelso cock, and I was like, and it was on Sunday morning. I'd got up and I'd watered chickens before church, and I went to church. I went
Uh-huh.
to church. Sat through service. I went and got lunch with my family, and I come back. Well, like I said, the house and the shop, they're about 125 yards apart. My daddy will get in
Right,
his truck and he'll ride down to the shop. He
right.
rode down. He called my mama and he said, "You need to tell Dakota he's got pins blowed over." And I was like, "Oh no!" I was like,
Right, right,
please don't be nothing in them." And I walked out and I saw that beat up Kelso rooster, and I was like, "No!"
right.
And I was one of my favorite chickens. It was a gray chicken. He was half sweater, half shorty gray. He was
Uh-huh.
about 6 years old. He was an old man. And I was like, "Oh no!" And I got him stood up. I had in one of the roosters for my daddy, and I'm running over trying to get to the sweater gray in the pen. I'm pulling him up. And, I was like, "What do I do?" I was like, "What do I do?" I was like, "I don't know what to do here." And
Right,
I mean, I knew basic, like I knew Mama knew basic first aid, so that's what we did. And I was like,
right,
so I'm like, as we're doing first aid, I'm like calling all these people. I'm like, "Hey, you know what to do with this right here?" And they're like, "Yeah, buddy. You can, just do this, this, and this.
right.
Like I don't use antibiotics or anything. I don't like it. I use oil of oregano a lot. For where our birds got to sneeze or whatever. So we give them a shot of oil of oregano, and then we were putting it's basically like a natural neosporin on them. I can't remember what it's called off the top of my head for some reason. You
Okay.
put it on their head to get the scabs off. And, I was checking his eyes out. I was making sure there was nothing in his throat.
Right,
And I didn't know none of that until I picked up the phone. I was like, "Hey, can you help me?" And he
right,
was, I called, 2, 3 different people, and they were all like, "Yeah, buddy, you can do this, this, and this." And, I got different information from all of them. I did all of it, and them roosters was
right,
good roosters.
right,
Sadly, I did lose that broodcock, but he's 6 years old, so I mean,
right,
I mean,
right,
but
right, right,
that Kelso rooster, that's been some odd. I mean, that's been a good while ago. He's still out there kicking in a brood pen. So
right,
I mean, if it wouldn't have been for them old, them old, them experienced cockers, those old timers, for lack of better terms,
right,
I wouldn't have known what to do. That losing a broodcock in a pen fight. My first major pen fight and losing a broodcock was really discouraging. I'm not gonna lie to you. Like it really broke my heart. I was like, man, I was like,
mhm,
I could have lost 2 good chickens there.
yep,
I was like, man, and then when that broodcock finally, kind of croaked over, I was like, oh no, and it broke my heart, and
right,
I was like, what am I gonna do? I was like, what am I gonna do?
that's right,
And it was just heartbreaking. But if it those those old timers, there's old timers. His name's Paul. He lives about 2 hours from here. But at the there's a little place called Toccoa, Georgia, that hosts the GGBA shows. And he said, you gonna be at the show Saturday? And I said, yes, sir, I will be. And he said, well, I've got something for you. Well, he come up, he handed me Hatch Gray Rooster. He said, here, buddy. He said, I heard you lost your Gray Cross broodcock. He said, here's a fresh stag. He said, you do whatever you want to with him.
Wow, that's amazing. That's again, like you say, that's the experience that you have had coming into the sport. So tell me this, Dakota, and I think this is extremely important for all of us to hear. How would you have felt in a situation like that? First of all, your heart is already broke because you got a situation, you got two brood cocks messed up, never had this experience in your life. You haven't been in a game probably less than a year's time.
Yeah.
You know, how would you have felt, man, if you picked up the phone and some of them guys like, man, just use your common sense, do this or that. That's common sense. How would you have felt, man, if those are the type of responses you was getting to use your common sense?
I mean, I'm not gonna lie to you. It'd have been disheartening. I wouldn't. That would have pushed me to hang up. Throw in the towel. Hang it all up. Really, you don't want to. It's like I don't want to be talked to like that. I don't think about them things. I've never had game chickens. Like I don't know what to do. Like I can doctor the scrape on my knee, but I can't doctor no busted beak on a rooster. And
That's right.
it's that's a totally different ball game. So I was like, thank you for the information. I'm beyond grateful for the people that have helped me, because if it would have been the opposite side of the spectrum, I couldn't say I'd still be in game chickens.
See that, and that's exactly, that's what I kind of wanted to see, because again, you're at a very vulnerable time. You coming, you new to the sport, and again, people might say, hey, it's common sense. You should know that, a bird need grain, or a bird need this, or a bird need that. If you ain't never had no game chicken, you don't know what that thing need. You see what I'm saying?
Yes,
So
sir.
I always say there is no common sense. There is no common sense, because if I put you in an airplane and you hit a particular button, I say, man, don't you got common sense? Don't hit that button and it make the wing do this. You're going to be like, I never flew a plane before. So what are you talking
That's right.
about? I don't
That's
know
right.
this. You know what I'm saying? So there is no common sense. And that's just a point that I kind of wanted to hear from a younger generation, because, in order for us to continue on, we have to refill the spots that's being lost. We lose cockers all the time to either death, financial situations, marital situations, relocation.
That's right.
Gamefowl cockers come in and out the sport all the time. And
That's
I
right.
think, a lot of us that's been blessed enough to be in it for a long period of time, we need to be very conscious of, not only just the words that we use, but how we encounter newer guys in the sport, because it's guys like yourself, your age group and younger, that is the future. That's the bottom line. Us 40, 50, 60 years old, our days are numbered. You know what I'm saying? We'll be here to 80 years old, but at the end of the day, we're not considered the next generation.
Yeah.
We're considered the present generation. You're considered the next generation. And I'm so happy that during that vulnerable time that you would have just threw the towel in. It was just that simple. You was on the line that if I had a bad experience outside of these, I'm already having a bad experience with this pin fight.
Yeah.
Any more bad experiences, I'm done. I'm
Yeah.
good. I ain't doing no more chickens. But I'm so glad that the people that you did encounter gave you the knowledge, gave you the information, was supportive, and made you say, okay, good, I can get through this. Now you know what to do when it comes to a cage fight, correct?
That's right. Yes, sir, I do.
Exactly. And that's how you learn. So what you think is common sense to you, maybe now, always remember, when it first happened, you ain't know none of that. You
That's
didn't
right.
know none of that. So, that's just, and I'm saying this because, again, one day you'll be 30, 40, 50, 60 years old. And when you come around a new guy, regardless if he's young and new or old and new, just always understand that, we got to be conscious of the words that we use, always be supportive, and know that there is no common sense in these chickens. There ain't no common
That's
sense in
right.
these chickens at all. I can promise you that right now. But that I'm glad you had that experience. So from that experience, you just kept building, huh? So
Yes,
from
sir.
that point on, man, did you start buying more chickens? Did you start meeting more people?
From that point on, I mean, that kind of jump started a little bit. Like back to when I had, them 3 roosters, them 7 hens, them 6, 7 hens.
Right.
There was a guy about an hour out from here, about an hour west, and he said, buddy, he said, I need everything gone. He said, I got 3 stags, a bull stag, and all the hens you can count. It ended up being like
Wow.
15. It ended up being like 15 chickens, and I got 4 good solid steel pens for $100. And I looked at my daddy and I was like, Daddy, I was like, we gonna have to do something, you know. My dad, great man, you know, he's pulled a trailer many a times for, you know, a big double axle trailer many a times for pens or
Right.
chickens or whatever. So we loaded up, you know, the next weekend and we went up there and we got all them pens and all them chickens. And I mean, at the time I only had, you know, 7, 8 pens, but you know, every
Right.
pen had a chicken in it, you know. I mean,
Right. That's
every one
right.
of them
That's
had a
right.
rooster in it.
That's
You know,
right.
that
That's right.
that's what made that's really from that point on, that was probably, you know, I started the journey in January. That was probably March, April, and from then on, it was just to the moon, man. it was wide open all the way down.
Wide open, huh? And you can't see yourself turning back and not having these chickens in your life, huh?
No, no, not at all. I mean, it'd be different, but I mean, there's a yard full of them, so I mean, the crowing and the clucking, it's what I
Right.
love to hear, you know. And everybody's like, man, everybody in the city was like, man, I'd love to just hear a rooster crow. Come on, I'll show you one crow. You know, it makes my heart happy. You know, every morning I wake up, you know, I go out to water them chickens and they start crowing. You know, that's music to my ears, basically.
Right. That's right. It's a beautiful thing, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing, man. It is, not only that is a beautiful thing, but seeing young men, the younger generation coming into the sport, having great experiences and stuff like that, and really thinking to myself, you know what, I'm gonna be in this a long time. And that's kind of how you feel. And you're like, you know what, I'm gonna be in these
Yeah.
chickens a long time. I
Yeah.
don't see no wind, like you said, it's going to the moon. I'm going
Yeah.
to the moon with these chickens.
Yeah.
So, again, man, obviously, you have a lot to learn.
Yeah.
You'll always stop learning. I mean, you'll never stop learning.
Yeah.
And just some things just to kind of, you know, hold close to your vest is always keep an open mind. I have
That's
been
right.
around. If you've been following me, I have been around. I have seen hundreds of thousands of chickens. I have met thousands of people. I have been to hundreds of farms, and I'm telling in different countries. And I can tell you, man, one of the things that I have learned in that travel is one, is good people all over the world. And
That's
and
right.
chicken people, I don't care what they breeding, what style they breeding, what breed they breeding. We're nation builders. And
That's right.
always remember that, man. As a game fowl breeder, we're nation builders. We're the carpenters, we're the plumbers, we're the Walmart clerks. We work in the dollar stores. We do, we the electricians, we're the truck drivers. We are the nation builders.
Yeah.
And that's the part. You know what I'm saying? Just think about
Yeah.
that and always remember that. That's why you got to be proud of who you are as a game fowl breeder, because understand that you're a part of you're a nation builder, and it's
Yeah.
like that in every country in the world. You go to the Philippines, Hawaii, Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic, Colombia, Vietnam.
Yeah.
Game fowl breeders are like the blue collar workers.
Yeah.
They build the nations. You know what I'm saying? So I always tell them, and I mention that some, people like, just go over their head. But if you really think about it, man, we're the same all over the world.
That's
We're the
right.
same all over the world. And that's why I think I'm very proud to be a game fowl breeder. I'm
Yeah.
very proud to be a game fowl, regardless of what society says about me or not. And then also, too, it makes you keep a very open mind, and I say that because in my travels, stuff that one guy told me would not work, I will come across a farm and a game fowl breeder doing it, and it did work. You know,
Absolutely.
the way somebody would have some pins set up, and he said, "No, I got rid of those because they didn't work for me." I would go somewhere else. It might be on the other side of the country, or it might be across the ocean, and
Yeah.
I would see somebody doing the same thing, and it'd be working. I'm like, "Hold
Yeah.
on." Yeah, what I'm saying? It's like even I
Yeah.
mean, when it comes to people say, "Oh, don't feed them that right there. That's not enough." I go to some people, I see them winning blue ribbons all the time. I'm like, "What you feed?" "Oh, this lamb pellets." Like, what? Like, that's crazy. Like,
Yeah.
I've heard 100 people say, "Don't do that,"
Yeah.
and it's working. So I'm giving you that little tidbit of advice. I've been around. I have seen hundreds of thousands of blue ribbon shows, thousands of cockers, went to hundreds of farms. I'm telling you, man, one of the keys to being successful as a game fowl breeder is always keeping an open mind. Always keep an open mind. Seek advice, but don't seek approval.
Yeah.
Seek advice. Try this, try that, try this, try that, try this, try that. But at the end of the day, the only person that needs the approval is the person carrying that feed bucket.
That's right.
And if you the one carrying that feed bucket and you the one paying that feed bill and you want to cross a Kelso to an A-seal or you want to cross a Kelso to a pigeon, do it.
Yeah,
And you
yeah,
know what? It's you.
yeah,
It's your money. It's your time. It's your dedication. And I'm telling you these things because it might come like, well, of course. But to a lot of people, it's not like that. So I
yeah,
think it's extremely important, again, coming into the sport that you start off with, I need to always keep an open mind. I
yeah.
need to always try stuff. Understand this. Every cross that you have in your yard was a result of an experiment.
That's right.
Regardless of what the experiment was, it could have been 100 years ago. They could have did that cross that you have in your yard 100 years ago. Well, you know what? 100 years ago, it was an experiment.
That's right.
Nobody knew what a Kelso crossed over this was going to be. Nobody knew what a hatch, what a sweater was going to be. Nobody knew until they tried it. So just always keep that in mind. Be very proud of who you are. Be very proud of who you are and understand, seek advice, but don't seek approval because
Yeah,
you're the only one putting in blood, sweat, and tears and paying that money, and then also too, you know, understand that it's not only that we're taking care of these chickens, but I just like I said, I always go back to biblical points, and I just think we're chosen to be their caregivers.
yeah.
And this is one of God's animals. So
Absolutely.
it's your responsibility to do everything that you're supposed to do to take care of God's animal.
That's
He
right.
put that animal in your hands. He allow you to have that animal. He could send a tornado through your thing and blow all them chickens away and you won't have nothing. So always remember it's your responsibility to always give those animals the best, not only 3 days a year, every single day of the year.
That's right.
Whether it's cold, it's hot, it's muddy, you tired, stressed out, you just got in a fight with your girlfriend. I don't care what it is. At the end of the day, you got God's animals in that backyard, and
That's
it's your
right.
responsibility to go out there and do what you need to do.
That's right.
Sometimes, and you need to go out there with 100% all the time. Leave that attitude on the porch or leave it in your bedroom or whatever the case is. But at the end of the day, you go out there because those are God's animals and you've been chosen to take care of them. You took the responsibility and you got to put it all in 100%. You
Absolutely.
know, and it's experiences that you're going through right now that I want you to remember 30, 40 years down the road. Don't forget how you started. Don't forget it wasn't common sense that you didn't know that it was game fowl feed. Don't forget that you didn't know what to do to a cock when it got into a cage fight.
Yeah.
And don't tell somebody they need to just use their common sense because you didn't have none and they
Absolutely.
don't have none. They just used to be you. You
That's
see what
right.
I'm saying?
Yeah.
They just used to be you. And that's I just wanted to kind of put that out there right now while everybody's watching and while you're young, you're fresh, you're new. I think it's extremely important to put the right ideas in your head, man, because like you say, you're going to the moon. The
That's right.
sky's the limit, man. What you put in them is what you're gonna get out of them. And sometimes you put more in them than you get out of them.
That's right.
That's the part that people don't talk about.
Yeah, that's
Sometimes you
right.
put a lot in them and you get very little out of them. But you know what? Just keep it on moving and going to the next one. But so, now we hear, you got a whole yard full of chickens, man. You in love with it. You're
Yeah.
learning every day. You still got a lot to learn.
Absolutely.
Are you still in school? Or you working in school or what kind of time frame you working with right now?
I actually graduated from a local tech school here with an automotive technology certificate. So I'm
That's
done with college, but I still work.
right.
I work with my
Right.
dad. I work with my mom. Whatever the
Right.
day brings. Or whether it's in the
That's what
chicken
it is.
yard. I'm
That's
working.
right.
I'm working
That's right.
every day of my life.
That's
Whether it's with upholstery, plumbing,
right.
electrical, or I'm
Whatever
helping
it is.
mom. I'm just helping mom run
Right.
errands. I'm doing something every day,
Every day.
every day. But
That's
I'm
right.
I'm I'm still I'm still home every time. Usually I'm still on time every time I feed them chickens. I water them chickens. That's
Right.
that's always that's always in the back of my mind.
That's always in the back of your mind. So tell me this, Dakota, what as this present generation as game fowl breeders, what can you get? Because again, at your age, you look at things at a totally different mindset. You came up in a totally different generation. What as the present day game fowl breeders, what can we do for a young guy like you just getting in game fowl to set you up, to like you say, go to the moon?
In all honesty, like my experiences, I've been nothing but blessed, nothing short of blessed. I have I've been given brood cocks, brood hens, stags, pullets. I've been given chicks. I've been given numerous accounts of advice, and always the old stories. You befriend that old cocker up there. He might give you a brood cock. In about 2-3 years.
Right.
Just as long as being polite. That's all I
Right.
can. All I can express because that's all I've been. That's all I've been given is kindness and blessings. Like it's nothing short of it.
Right.
I've befriended an old cocker, and he was like, man, we're walking through his tie cord yard. I'm like, man, it's a sharp looking Kelso cock. You like him? Yes, sir. Well, I don't. Take him home. Yes, sir. It was always. It's stuff like that. It doesn't always just fall on the present generation. I feel like as long as my generation has an open mind, is willing to learn,
Right.
the sky's the limit. As
Sky's the
long as
limit.
somebody's willing to help and you're willing to learn, you're
Mhm.
set.
You're set. That's right. That's right. So that's what we can do as a present generation is making sure that we're very conscious, always trying to help the next cocker, whether he's young or old, new or seasoned. Treat everybody like family. Don't focus on a small 0.001% of the bad apples in the group. And like I say, you're the first of many because I will continue to highlight your generation because
Yeah,
y'all guys are our future. Y'all do not know nothing about these chickens, and it's a ton of information out here. You listen to all of it, take what you can use out of it, and set the rest to the side because the rest that you set to the side may not help you, but you might get a phone call 5 years from now and ask you a question, and you can go back to that information you set to the
that's
side and
exactly
say,
right.
"Well, it didn't help me, but this is the answer to that guy's question." So listen to all of it. Take it all in. Use what you can use. Keep a open mind.
Absolutely.
Seek advice. Don't seek approval.
That's right.
Seek advice. It's your yard, it's your farm, it's your money, it's your chickens.
That's right.
Do it. Keep an open mind. Always try to improve. Never get in the mindset if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Because you know what?
That's right.
We don't drive Model Ts today. We drive different types of cars. We don't use a horse and buggy to get from New Jersey to California. We got airplanes. So again, always keep an open mind. Always try to improve, and never forget that you have God's animals back there in that yard.
That's right.
So Dakota, man, we've been on this thing for an hour. It's been a pleasure talking, man. Congratulations with you graduating the
Thank you.
tech school. But I have one surprise for you before we get off.
Oh boy.
You said you've been blessed, so I just wanted to add another blessing to it. You know about the Journey to the Pit 362 program, with the 12 mentors and 12 students, right?
Yes, sir.
So I just wanted to let you know, man, that you will be in the next class, man. I'll set you up with a good
Oh my
mentor.
lord.
It doesn't mean that you got to stop listening to everybody else, but I'm going to give you a dedicated mentor, man, that I'm pretty sure you establish a lifelong relationship. You'll have a person to directly call. I'm always here, but I just wanted to let you know today on the show that you have been picked to be one of the 12 students of the Journey to the Pit 362 program. I hope it make you happy, man, but I'm very, very proud of you. And I'm just trying to do my part to do everything that I can and make sure that we set you up for success for the next generation, man. So congratulations, brother, and I hope
Thank
that
you.
you
Thank you.
have.
Thank you.
Well, listen, man. Stay in touch. We're going to end this interview now, man, on a positive
Absolutely.
note. Like I say, man, it's been a pleasure talking to you. I know a lot of everybody's watching, man. You've been an inspiration to just listen to, to see, how much passion you have and how much hard work you into and that connection that you have already just into the sport, man. So I want to make sure that we all do our part to make sure that we set you up with everything that you need, man, to carry this generation and carry your grandfather's legacy of Smith Legacy Farms, man. We'll make sure we set you up right and keep you going, brother. All right?
All right. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Yes, sir, brother. I'll be in touch, man. And just remember, stay focused, stay positive, and we'll all stay blessed, Dakota. And I'll be talking to you soon, brother. You have a good night.
You too. Thank you, sir.
All righty, brother. I'll be talking to you soon. All righty, guys. That was Mr. Dakota that we had on tonight, man. A young cocker of the present of the new generation, man. I think it was extremely important and very powerful to have this young man come on his show tonight. It did exactly what I thought it was going to do. It was a great, great young man. I met him some time ago in my travels, man, at a GBA meeting in Georgia, man. He's a very, very nice person, a good young man. I met his mother. And again, I reached out to his mother to make sure that I had her permission to even, have him come on to the show. I didn't know how old Dakota was, but I just thought it was the proper thing to do, to go through his mom to get permission. But she told me some about him. He sent me over his bio. And again, we as the present day cockers, man, need to take heed to the things that he was saying, how he was in a very vulnerable position, how, if he was told the wrong things, he would have just threw in a towel, and just forgot about gamefowl. And that'd have been just one potential great game cocker that we would have lost if he would have got the wrong type of encounter with the present day cocker. That's why I say we can never, never forget how important it is and be very conscious with the encounters that we have with other cockers, new or old, seasoned or, veterans or new cockers. It doesn't make a difference. We need to be very, very conscious, of our encounters and how we talk to each other, because we don't know what somebody's mindset is. You know what I mean? We don't know what they're going through. At that point, Dakota had dealt with a situation he had never dealt. His confidence, he was, like he said, he wasn't feeling good. He didn't understand. He was discouraged. Two of his good brood cocks was fighting through a cage, and he ended up losing one, and he didn't know what to do to take it. We don't know what somebody's dealing with. So we always got to understand that we got to be very conscious on how we deal with, other gamefowl breeders with these encounters. You heard from him how, using the word common sense, how we got to be very conscious. And guys used to get on me about, oh, what you making a big deal about somebody not having common sense? Well, you heard it first. You heard it from a young man just getting into the sport, only been in it about a year, and he didn't even know that it was food for gamecocks. He didn't even know. He didn't even know how long it took for an egg to hatch. So how can you tell somebody like him, use your common sense? There is no common sense when it comes to these chickens. It's just things that you know and things that you don't know until you don't know them. So again, guys, I hope that y'all guys enjoyed this interview tonight. It wasn't a 2-hour interview because we was going to be talking about bloodlines and hatching and vaccinations and all that kind of stuff, because he's not there yet. He's not there yet. But I promise you, he will be there. If I can help out, if I can help in any way, shape, form, or fashion, I promise you that young man is going to be where he needs to be. And he said he's going to the moon. And I'm going to tell you what, I'm going to be filling up the rocket fuel. I'm going to fill up the rocket fuel. Let him do the driving. He just told me he want to go to the moon. I'm going to do everything that I can help him out to do so he can go to the moon. So, guys, I hope y'all guys enjoyed the show. Please look at the whole entire interview and be very conscious and take heed. This young man and all the other young men and women, the young ladies and stuff out there, they are our future. We have an opportunity before us now to create the next generation. We can mold the next generation. These are the things that we can never overlook because they're extremely important. They are going to carry our culture, but they are only going to carry what we teach them. So if we want these birds to live on for generations to come and just get better every generation, understand we need to always make sure we help and we support guys like Dakota. So y'all guys have a good night. Stay focused, stay positive, stay blessed, and I'll see y'all tomorrow. We got another great guest, Dre Redcliffe. A lot of y'all guys know him. If y'all don't worry. Y'all get to know him tomorrow. Same place, same time, 9 p.m. Eastern time. Journey to the Pit page. Stay focused, stay positive, stay blessed, and I'll see y'all guys tomorrow. Good night.